Well, I thought I'd put together a little video that might help some folks understand their Lipperts 6-point hydraulic level up system. We're home here at the house in southern Idaho, and it's real close to 100, and it'll probably be about 105 here in another hour, but we'll make this quick video before it gets too hot. So we're looking at the landing gear, and as you can see, I have my temporary wood blocks down. They're just old pieces of wood that I use, and when we actually are out on the road, I have much nicer blocks that are actually about 5 inches tall, and I use those underneath instead. But taking a look at these hydraulic leveler legs, the extended portion, I'm looking at the left front gear, and you can see that there is some little dirt and debris and stuff, and I'm wiping it off with my finger. If I retract this leveling leg or any of the others, just looking at the little bit of dust and stuff that I see on these legs, and you can see there's a film of dust on there. If I retract those leveler legs, what's going to happen? And we're going to get down here, and the concrete's not too hot. We're going to get down here and we're going to take a zoom up picture. And what we're looking at is where the exposed cylinder runs up, and you can see, if I can get my finger in the right place, yeah, there we go. You can see that there's just a lip of a seal there. Now what that seal is called an external wiper seal. It does nothing as far as sealing the hydraulic fluid and hydraulic pressure inside the strut. So what you want to do to preserve your 6-point Lippert hydraulic leveling system, in my opinion, is to wipe these leveler legs down each time before you retract the legs. And some people say, oh geez, I got to do something else. Well, you know, these legs cost $600 to $1,000 a piece, or if you're handy like I am, you can rebuild them. But if you take 5 minutes of your time and use a little bit of lubricating oil, and when I say lubricating oil, it could be ATF, automatic transmission fluid, it could be AW32 hydraulic oil, or in my case, I've got a bottle of motorcycle fork oil. The reason I'm using that is because I got about 10 bottles of that for my motorcycles. And so what we're going to do prior to retracting this landing gear is we're going to take a couple minutes and wipe these landing gear down prior to retracting them. Okay, so we have 5 of the 6 wiped down, and we're going to wipe this last front landing gear leg down. And boy, it's getting warm out here in Idaho. And just taking a visual look here at each cylinder as I wipe them down. And okay, we've got that cylinder wiped down, and you can see it's nice and clean. And I've left just a little bit of residue on there, so that when I retract these landing gear and levelers, they will actually clean and lubricate that external wiper seal. And I've placed a piece of blue tape on the mid landing gear and on the rear landing gear, so that you can see where these pistons are at. Everything is extended, the fifth wheel is leveled. So I want to hook up the fifth wheel to the truck, and I've stated, and I'll state it again, when you go to do that, you need to retract those mid and rear leveler legs up first before you start raising that fifth wheel up, because all you're doing, if you don't, is you're putting a lot of extra pressure on the mid and rear leveler legs that doesn't need to happen. Okay, so I'm going to manually extend the front landing gear like I was going to hook up to the pickup truck, and so we've raised it about it's about 2 inches. And if you look back here, you can see that the legs did not retract. Actually, that one extended a little bit, and this one is still sitting in the same location. And the reason that mid leveler leg actually extended about an inch or so, and you saw the rear leveler leg when you looked at the piece of blue tape in relation to the edge of the cylinder. It actually had retracted just a little bit. What happens is when I lift those front leveling legs, it puts more pressure on the back rear legs. Okay, and the mid and rear leveler legs on each side are connected in tandem and isolated from left to right. And so what that means is what happens to one leg is going to happen to the other leg when it comes to the mid and rear levelers, since they're connected in tandem. So when I lift that front of that Alpine up and I still have those leveling legs down, I'm putting more pressure on those extended rear legs. Okay, the pressure's got to go somewhere, and so where does it go? It's going to shift forward to the mid leveler legs because the mid and rear are in tandem. And I personally don't like that. I think it's putting undue stress on the insides of those two cylinders on the left and the two cylinders on the right in regards to the mid and rear. And we're sitting at close to 100 degrees, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually retract the mid and rear leveler legs, and then I'm going to raise the fifth wheel up like I was going to hitch up. And for those that aren't familiar with the leveling control panel, all you have to do is press on, and then I want to retract those mid and rear left and right legs. So what I'm going to do, the retract light is hit, and I'm going to press the rear button, and that rear button will retract both the mid and, can't see it, but we'll show it to you in a minute, and we'll listen for the sound of the pump to change, and you could hear the sound of the pump change. And now if we look at that mid leg and the rear leg, they are up, and they are also up on the other side. And so now if I want to raise the fifth wheel up to hook up to my pickup truck, you noticed I pressed the retract button so it's no longer illuminated, and all I need to do now is just press that front button, and you can see that the front of the Alpine's actually lifting up a little bit. And so now we've raised it up enough that we could hitch up. We've got the pickup truck is backed up behind it. It's an invisible pickup truck, but it's there. Tailgate is down, and we've backed the truck up close to the hitch, and so now we know that we need to lower that front end a little bit. And so we're going to come back over and simply hit that retract button, and we're going to hit the front button, and you can see that the fifth wheel is actually lowering back down. So now we've got it lowered down to the height that we would need, and we'll verify looking at our hitch, and we'll back that invisible pickup truck up, get it hooked up, and we'll do a pull test. Once we've done a pull test and verified that everything is good, then we'll simply come back over and we'll hold this front and press the front button with the retract illuminated, and you can see we're actually retracting the landing gear. And we got a nice wind coming up right now, so that's kind of helping. It's 100 degrees and had a 20-mile-an-hour gust there. So that's basically how I recommend retracting and getting ready to hook up to your pickup truck. Okay, and we'll simulate unhooking the pickup truck from the Alpine. So we're simply going to turn this on, and we're going to press the front button, and we can see that the fifth wheel is lifting up, and we get it up to get the pressure off of the truck that is invisible, but it's there. We'll unlock the fifth wheel hitch, make sure the tailgate's down, and make sure the emergency brake cable's disconnected, as well as the 7-pin umbilical wire, and remove the truck out from underneath. And you want to make sure that you get that truck, the tailgate and everything, clear of the end of the pin box on this Alpine, because if you don't and you hit auto level, one of the first motions this fifth wheel is going to do is it's going to lower the nose, and it's going to drive down until it sees a negative value change in front to back, and then it will lift up and do front to back level. And if your pickup truck is in the way, the Alpine's not going to care. Okay, one step I forgot to mention, of course, before you unhook that pickup truck, make sure you have the wheels chalked. Mine are chalked here at the house, and we've got our temporary at-home wood blocks, and you can see that they are well used and cracked and split, but here at home they get the job done. Out on the road we've got the nice big ones with the rope handles that I use. So what we're going to do now is an auto level. Okay, we've turned the control panel on, and we're simply going to press auto level. And if you notice, the first motion was downward, and what's going to happen now is it's going to look at the stored values in the front control box, and you notice the front of the Alpine is lifting up a little bit, and it's going to lift up a little more while it looks at those saved level values. And once it's satisfied with front to back, now the left and right, or actually the left, mid, and rear leveler legs will come down and make contact, and it'll slightly lift the fifth wheel. And then if we walk around to the other side, and we're on the other side now, and we can see the mid and rear levelers came down, and so we've got a side-to-side level. And now it's going to run one more time, doing a last front to back level, and if successful, it will say success, and it will beep. And you might have heard it there, we're clear on the right rear side of the Alpine, but that's basically an auto level sequence. Very simple to do. Now, auto level was very simple to do, and if you're not satisfied with the level condition, you can always manually adjust the front to back or the left and right to get the levelness that you desire. And if you keep having to do that manually level after you've done an auto level, then my suggestion is manually level your fifth wheel and use a nice level inside. I use mine on the floor of the Alpine, and actually I use a cell phone app with a bubble level, and get the fifth wheel level according to the leveling device that you're using. Once you're satisfied with that, then simply do a 0-point recalibration on the level of control panel, and what that does is it erases the previously stored auto level position and writes into NVRAM on the front control module and saves that data, so that now that when you press auto level, it will level to the last level condition that you set. And if you find that after you've set the levelness of your fifth wheel and done a 0-point recalibration, if you find that the next time you go someplace and your auto level is way off again, then I would start looking at my remote rear sensor to make sure that it's not loose. And the remote rear sensor on your Alpine is going to be mounted under the coroplast behind the last axle, probably about a foot, and it will be centered up high above those two axles mounted on a plate. And you want to make sure that that sensor is not loose on its mounting plate, and the wiring connections are good and tight. And so now we're hitting about 102 degrees here in southern Idaho, but we got a little shade standing here next to the Alpine. But that gives you a quick overview of how the auto level system works and why you should clean those exposed struts every time before you retract. I've done it for 8 years, and I would like to think that my due diligence in wiping those struts down is the reason that in 8 years, knock on wood, I have never had a hydraulic leak on any one of these 6 leveler legs. And of course tomorrow they all might be leaking now that I've said that, but I think that's why they don't leak. I keep the grit, dust, and stuff off the exposed cylinder before I retract those cylinders up inside, of the assembly, and it preserves the not only that external wiper seal, but it also preserves the internal wiper seals by getting that grit and stuff off. What you choose to do is your choice, but this is what I do, and I think it works.